Seriously, who would think that a subscription model was gonna work for video games? Well, yeah, we know who did. Just because Netflix unlocked the infinite money glitch, Microsoft has been obsessed with it for the last 10 years or so, but look at where it got them. Just look at the state Xbox is in today, undergoing massive restructuring, axing studios left and right, and sending thousands of employees to go look for a new job at McDonald's. And this shows that all these executives don't understand this industry at a fundamental level. In Microsoft's fantasy world, they were gonna hop on investor calls and report that we've got 500 million subscribers, the projected net bookings are $2 trillion or some stupid shit like that. But praise the Lord, cause that reality doesn't exist. In fact, I'd even say that it was never going to exist. I think a subscription model was never going to work for games in the first place, and there are 3 big reasons for that. First up is the fundamental difference between games and movies. Movies and TV shows are passive mediums. You can watch them while scrolling reels or even as a background noise while doing something else. The barrier to entry is almost zero, and the barrier to leave is even lower. Like, dude, I don't even remember how many movies and series I've started and abandoned, like Shadows and Bones, for example. Season 1 was good, Season 2 sucked ass, never watched past the 2nd episode. This is something that rarely happens in games. Like, there are only a handful of games that were so bad that I never completed them. In fact, as we speak, my friend gave me a copy of his Ghost of Yotei, and even though I'm not a fan of that game, I will still complete it. The thing is that games are an active hobby. When you boot up a game and if the game is good, you literally step into an entire new world. You take control, you make the decisions, you decide if you want to punch an NPC in the face for no reason. Even in linear games like The Last of Us, for example, there's a sense of immersion that movies just cannot offer. On top of that, an average game takes way longer to end than a movie or TV show, which makes them even more demanding. On a basic level, they just require a lot of time and effort. They are interactive art pieces that we master. There's a sense of accomplishment. With every game, we start as newbies, and then we put time and effort in upgrading, getting skill points, getting overpowered weapons and rare armor sets. We build unbreakable bonds with characters along the way, provided that they're well-written characters. Like, dude, to this day, seeing Arthur Morgan say, "I'm afraid," just breaks my heart. This is the reason why at any given point in time, you can only realistically focus on 1 or 2 games at most. A streaming service by its very nature needs to be flooded with content to retain subscribers, but that's simply not possible nor sustainable when it comes to games. So while Netflix can afford and probably even need to flood their platform with mediocre garbage and people would still probably check it out while having dinner, I think it's safe to say for games, a majority of the people would never even want to boot up a slop game in the first place. And since games are getting ridiculously more expensive to make, hosting them on a platform like this just in the hopes to retain subscribers isn't really feasible. South of Midnight is a great example of that. It's a much smaller game, yet it took like $100 million to make. And that's a lot of money for a game which primarily exists just to populate Gamepass. And that actually brings us to the second reason. The math just doesn't add up. Gotta be Captain Obvious here, but games need dedicated hardware to run, whether it's a PC or a gaming console. And a console sitting in a bedroom literally costs the company nothing, because all they need to do is produce it and sell it just once and that's it. The problem though is that this business model doesn't really have that corporate appeal because it doesn't give you that sweet, predictable recurring revenue. So I understand why companies like Microsoft want to have a streaming platform so bad. But here's the thing that often gets overlooked. Apart from making games or buying licenses to games or whatever, cloud games introduce another massive ongoing overhead, and that's maintenance. Now, I'm not a tech expert, but unlike Netflix or other streaming platforms that only have to host video files, to host games, especially bigger AAA titles like Call of Duty, you need a hell lot more than just a stable internet connection. You need the hardware, RAM, CPUs, powerful GPUs, cooling systems, not to mention the manpower required to keep it all running at all times. Dedicated on-site engineers, technicians, and specialists to make sure everything keeps working like it's supposed to. Then there's the whole gaming hardware and RAM situation, which doesn't just affect console production, it also hits expansions to these gaming cloud infrastructures, because they need the same damn RAM, which now feels like searching for a high-level purple tier loot. Ashish Sharma, the CEO of Xbox, has said that they are already buying RAM at twice the price and it's only expected to blow up exponentially, like 7 to 8 times, which is crazy to say the least. And that same RAM that would inflate the price of individual gaming consoles would surely raise the price for the gaming cloud infrastructures as well, resulting yet again in price hikes. Now, even though Xbox Game Pass got like 30 million subscribers, and even though that number sounds huge on paper, the reality is simple. This doesn't work. And the fact that Xbox is crashing and burning in real time while also pulling day one Call of Duty releases from Gamepass, the very game that was supposed to be this platform seller, speaks a lot more about how Gamepass has utterly failed. So that's why I believe that for a cloud gaming service to actually be profitable, you need a hell lot more than 30 million subscribers. Now you might be wondering, sure, movies and games are different, but cloud gaming still sounds like a great deal. You don't need the expensive hardware and you can play games for cheaper, like it lowers the barrier to entry into gaming as a whole, so why doesn't it work? And that's exactly what brings us to the third, and arguably the most important point, ownership and replayability. The thing is, when you've watched a movie, no matter how much you love it, the chances of you watching it soon again are pretty low. Now sure, there are comfort movies, and I love myself some Lord of the Rings, John Wick, or Predator, and I definitely watch them again if they were on. But do I actively want to make time for them and be all excited like, yeah, tonight I'm gonna watch this movie I've watched before? No, not at all. Games, on the other hand, are something you can crave to play out of nowhere even years down the line. I mean, dude, just yesterday I had this sudden urge to play Batman Arkham Knight in the middle of the night. That's exactly why gamers want to hold on to their libraries, physical or digital, because we want to be able to access the games we already have without having to pay a monthly rent for the privilege. But can the same be said for movies or TV shows? I don't think so. Just recently I was cleaning out some boxes and found a stack of movies I hadn't touched in years, and I didn't even hesitate for a second before tossing them straight into the trash. But if it were a game, I would definitely keep it. And that's when I realized something. Movies are more of a disposable form of content, but games are not. Gamers put a lot of time and heart into the games, and that's what makes them a lot more passionate and emotional about this hobby as a whole. And maybe that's also the reason why they love collecting gaming related stuff. So these companies are basically dealing with an audience with a vastly different mindset. And on top of that, these gamers already have a ton of options and they didn't really want a subscription service being shoved down their throats in the first place. PC gaming is absolutely huge. Steam alone has got over 200 million monthly active users and they get over 36 million peak concurrent players every single day on the platform. And not just that, there are other options as well like GOG, Epic Store, and more websites that can give you games even for free. All these people probably have tons of games they already own, games they have installed on their PCs, and games that they can access and play anytime totally free of cost. So it's entirely safe to say that there's a large chunk of audience who have all the reasons to stay far away from any sort of game streaming services. Now let me ask you something. Why do we play games? The answer is extremely simple. Freedom and escapism. The point is that gamers by their very nature crave freedom. And having more options means more freedom. The PlayStation backlash is not because people suddenly realize they love discs and hate digital media. No, it's because people realize that they had an option which is now being taken away. Since the last couple of years, I've been buying most of my games digitally too, but that doesn't mean that I will never want a physical game. Just last month, I got the OG Black Flag completely for free thanks to a friend of mine, while the PlayStation Store wanted me to pay $18 for a 13-year-old game. With cloud gaming, it gets worse because you are then entirely at the mercy of the platform. And what makes it even more worse is that we are already fighting an uphill battle for ownership. Games can still randomly just disappear from our digital libraries. Even physical discs can still be rendered useless if the company decides to kill a game. A subscription service only adds to that because they can pull a game from their platform at any given time. And this is something that actually happens way too often on Netflix, where TV shows and movies get taken down all the damn time. All of this bullshit, paired with the corporate greed actively trying to take away your options, all in the hopes to trap you in their walled ecosystems that will surely end up getting shitified anyway, is what the gamers actually hate. Gamepass itself proved that by raising the prices by 50% and even testing free versions where you'd have to sit through ads before you can play the damn game. All the while, most of the games are already filled to the brim with all sorts of shameless monetization schemes that exist under the sun. The point is, we hate monopolies. We hate when mega corporations try to force a decision on us just because it adds to their bottom line. And just like anyone else, we hate anti-consumer behavior. The only difference is that we, the gamers, are just a lot less likely to put up with it. And that's why I believe that cloud gaming services were never gonna work, at least in this generation anyways. But I'll leave you with that. Do share your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think cloud gaming will ever be a thing, or is it just Microsoft's hopeless dream? Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe if you found this video valuable. Also use the hype feature so my video gets more exposure and my small channel blows up. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.